Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name's Connor. And at my girlfriend's birthday party, she got tipsy, raised her glass, and turned me into the punchline of her birthday toast, and everyone laughed. It made me sit with a question I had been pushing down for months. What does it mean to love someone? And what does it say about me if I keep showing love to someone who thinks I am a joke? She had no idea what was coming next, and I'll be telling you all about it. I met Miranda about 2 years ago. We were working at the same company back then in a mid-sized tech firm. I was in the product team. She was working as an office assistant. We didn't talk much at first because we worked on different floors, moved in different circles. But everything changed when I decided to open my mouth about something a lot of people felt I should have just kept quiet about. Our HR team had just rolled out a new policy, and that rubbed me the wrong way. They wanted tighter control over employee activity. Basically, it meant being tracked for everything, and it felt invasive. So I spoke up during a team-wide town hall, voiced my concerns, and asked some uncomfortable questions. From that moment, the atmosphere around me changed almost overnight. It started with cold shoulders. My name got left off meeting invites that I should have been part of. Then came the performance reviews. Suddenly, my work was inconsistent, even though nothing about my output had changed. I wasn't being fired outright, but the message was clear. I wasn't welcome anymore. Eventually, I resigned not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't keep walking into a place that made me feel like I didn't belong. And through all of that, there was one person who checked in on me regularly. Miranda. She didn't know me well. Like I said, we'd barely exchanged more than a few words before that. But she noticed. She saw the shift happening, even if she wasn't directly involved. She'd stop by my desk just to ask if I was holding up okay. She brought me coffee once, not because I asked, just because she felt like I needed one. Left a note with it, too. Something simple like, hang in there. Some of us see what's happening. That small gesture stuck with me. She didn't owe me anything. She was just being decent when everyone else was playing it safe. When I walked out of that company for the last time, I didn't hear from a single manager or colleague I'd worked alongside for years. But Miranda sent me a message. They don't deserve your integrity. I hope you land somewhere better. We kept in touch after that. Just occasional texts or a random meme. She asked how interviews were going. I appreciated it. A few weeks later, I landed a new job. Higher salary, more responsibility, better culture. I was starting fresh, and it felt good. But even then, I didn't forget who had checked in on me when it felt like everyone else had disappeared. That's when our friendship started to deepen. I invited her out for coffee one afternoon, partly to say thank you, partly because I wanted to see her. We talked for hours. What started as a simple thank you turned into a connection I never noticed. Over time, those coffee catch-ups turned into dinners. I started looking forward to her texts. And one night, when we were walking back to her place after dinner, I kissed her, and she kissed me back. From there, the relationship took off quickly. Within a few weeks, we were spending most nights together. I felt connected to her on a level that was hard to explain, because she'd seen me at my lowest and still chose to show up. That sense of loyalty meant a lot to me. I wasn't used to someone caring without an angle. And it built something in me, a kind of attachment that went deeper than just attraction. I loved her, yes, but I also felt like I owed her. Because she showed up for me, I had to show up for her, no matter what. I know that probably sounds unhealthy, but I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought this is what love looks like. What I didn't see then, what I see more clearly now, is that gratitude isn't the same as compatibility. Loyalty isn't the same as emotional maturity. And sometimes when you build a relationship on what someone did for you in the past, you end up carrying that debt into every corner of the present, even when things start to go wrong. But at that point, I wasn't questioning any of it. I felt lucky. I felt like I had found someone who stuck by me when I was being torn down, and I wasn't going to take that for granted. But as time moved on, the vibe started changing gradually. The more comfortable she got with me, the more she sort of got loose with the things she said. What used to be light teasing in private became public comments that rubbed me the wrong way. One of the things she said around her friends one day was that if I were a dog, I'd be a golden retriever, loyal, eager, always there. People would laugh, including her, and I'd force a chuckle even when it made me feel like I was being put on display. And the truth is, I did feel like a sidekick, sometimes in public. But then later at home, she'd say things like, "You're the only one who really gets me," and I'd start questioning myself, wondering if I was just overthinking things. The real problem started when the emotional stuff turned financial. What used to be her asking me to help out here, and there slowly became a pattern of expectation. She started borrowing my credit card for what she called emergencies. At first, it was fine. Emergencies happen. But then those emergencies turned into weekly manicures, sushi nights out with her friends, and shopping bags she'd bring home without saying much. I brought it up just trying to communicate, but she didn't take responsibility. Instead, she snapped back at me, said I was trying to control her, and even throughout, my ex used to act like this too. I started to wonder if maybe I was the problem or overreacting. It made me feel like I had to apologize for even having boundaries. The longer I stayed, the more obvious it became that this relationship wasn't healthy anymore. She still made jokes, only now they had more of a sting. She'd call me daddy when talking about money, but she stopped saying I love you first. Actually, she stopped saying it much at all unless I said it first. The emotional connection that used to feel real and mutual was slowly turning into a transaction. I was giving time, money, energy, and what I got in return was mostly inconsistency. And people around me started to notice. My closest friends pulled me aside more than once. They didn't sugarcoat it. "She's using you, man. You're the one holding everything together, and she's just along for the ride." Every time I thought about pulling away, Miranda would sense it. Like clockwork, she'd turn on the charm. All of a sudden, she was affectionate again, cooking for me, texting sweet things, holding my hand like she used to. It was like flipping a switch. But it never lasted. The moment she felt like I was settled again, the distance would creep back in. It became this exhausting cycle. Give, get nothing. Think about leaving, get love-bombed, stay. Rinse and repeat. Looking back, I wasn't in a partnership. I was in a performance. And I was the only one still acting like it mattered. Miranda's 29th birthday was weeks away, and despite the red flags waving in my face, some small, some huge, I still clung to this hope that things would get better. I saw it as a chance to reset things. Maybe show her what we still had, what we could still be if we just remembered how we started. I went all out for that party. I booked this rooftop venue with a perfect view of the city skyline. I wanted it to be beautiful, special, memorable. I coordinated everything down to the last detail, from the fairy lights to the flower arrangements on every table. I even made sure the playlist was full of songs she loved, stuff from when we first started dating. Then, the gift. She had been hinting for weeks about the bracelet she saw online. She never said it directly, but she'd show me pictures of it casually while scrolling, say things like, "Ugh, look how perfect that is," and then swipe past like it wasn't important. I picked up on it. I tracked down the exact one, even got it engraved with the date we met. I wanted her to feel loved. I wanted her to know she mattered. This whole thing wasn't just a party to me. It was a labor of love. It was my way of trying to patch up a relationship that had slowly become one-sided. I thought maybe if she saw how much I still cared and how much I was willing to do to make her feel celebrated, she might soften a bit. I know now how naive that sounds, but at the time, I genuinely believed love could fix what was clearly falling apart. On the day of her birthday, she was glowing when she walked in, beaming, hugging people, thanking me. But as the night went on, people started dancing, drinking, and snapping pictures. When it was time for toast, she was tipsy by then. Someone handed her a glass of champagne, and she clinked it with a fork. Everyone turned to her. I was standing just a few steps behind her, smiling like a fool, thinking she was going to say something sweet or goofy like she usually did. But instead, she looked around, raised her glass, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Let's make a toast to my boyfriend. He pays the bills, buys the gifts, follows me around like a dog." There was laughter. Some people chuckled. I didn't laugh. And then, as if that wasn't enough, she paused for just a second, looked right at me, and added with a grin, He still thinks I'm actually in love with him. That's when the laughter got louder. I saw one of her friends nudge her and whisper something, maybe telling her to stop, but Miranda just laughed even harder, like she was owning the moment. Like this was the peak of her comedy set. It wasn't funny to me. A joke at my expense after everything I'd done. I stood up. As I started walking toward the exit, Miranda turned to me. Her voice cut through the music and the laughter. She smirked and said, "Don't be so sensitive. You know you'll come crawling back like you always do anyway." That was the moment I knew I wasn't coming back. I went straight home without saying anything to anyone. I was angry, but more than that, I was tired. It felt like something in me had finally snapped. Around 11:43 p.m., my phone rang. It was Miranda. I looked at the phone, watched it ring, and then let it go to voicemail. I didn't want to hear her voice. Not after what she said. Not after how she humiliated me in front of everyone we knew. A few minutes later, it rang again. But this time, I got angry and blocked the number because I knew if I didn't, I'd end up picking up and I'd listen. And if I listened, there was a chance I might forgive. And I wasn't ready for that. I couldn't keep pretending that her carelessness was love. The next morning, I was up early. I hadn't really slept. I just lay in bed most of the night. Around 8:15 a.m., I heard a knock on my door. It was soft at first, then a little firmer. I didn't need to look through the peephole. I knew it was her. I stayed quiet without answering. She knocked again. Stood there for a while. I could hear her shifting on her feet, but I gave her nothing. After about 5 minutes, she left. And that was the first time I truly chose myself over her, because I couldn't keep giving parts of myself to someone who laughed at the love I gave. Afterwards, I called my lawyer. Now, I know some people might think that's extreme, but let me explain. Over the past 2 years, I have covered more than just dinner dates or little surprises. I had paid bills for her, utilities, phone bills, some rent when she was short. I even loaned her money a couple of times, and every time she'd say, "I'll pay you back as soon as I can." She never did. On top of that, I had bought her things, gifts that went beyond birthdays and holidays. Even paid off part of her credit card debt at one point because she said it was ruining her peace. When you're in love, you don't track every dollar. But when love gets twisted into something one-sided and manipulative, those dollars start to feel like bricks stacked on your back. So I sat down with my lawyer and we went over everything I could legally ask to be returned or reimbursed. My lawyer was honest. Some things, because they were classified as gifts, couldn't be claimed back. But items bought jointly or labeled as loans, even verbally, if I had messages or transfers with notes, were another story. We compiled a list of what was possible. A couple $1,000s in borrowed money. A few of the more expensive gifts had receipts in my name, things she still had in her possession. And while this was going on, Miranda wasn't sitting quietly. She started calling me from every number she could get her hands on. At first, she was acting confused, like she didn't understand why I was making it such a big deal. She blamed the alcohol, said it was just a joke. Then she tried the guilt approach, reminding me of the good times, the things we shared. But every call was just another reminder of how she never took responsibility for anything. Not once did she lead with, "I hurt you, and I was wrong." It was always about how I reacted, never about what she did. Some of the calls I ignored. Some I answered just to say, "Stop calling me." But the thing about people like Miranda is they don't stop until they realize they've truly lost control. And that's exactly what happened. Her excuses started drying up, and the guilt started seeping in. She finally realized that I wasn't going to chase her this time, and I wasn't going to sweep it under the rug like every other time she crossed a line. She started sending actual apologies, saying, "What I did was wrong. I'm sorry." And you know what? I believe she regrets it. But regret doesn't fix everything. It doesn't erase what's already broken. I was done. I had already made the decision. One Monday morning, I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole, it wasn't Miranda. It was her mother. Now, I won't lie, I hesitated for a second. I could have ignored the knock. But I was raised to be polite, even when I'm hurting. So I opened the door. She didn't raise her voice or demand anything. She just asked, "Connor, can I come in and talk for a minute?" I stepped aside and let her in. She sat on the edge of the couch, almost like she didn't want to get too comfortable. And before I could even offer her a drink or ask why she came, she dove straight in. "Connor, please. You know how she gets when she drinks. That wasn't the real her. She's crying her eyes out. She's been a mess since that night. Please just talk to her." I just listened. So when her mother finished talking, I looked her in the eye and told her calmly, "I wish things could have worked out. I really do. I loved your daughter. But the truth is, this didn't start at the birthday party. She's been disrespecting me for a long time. The only reason she's reacting like this now is because I finally stood my ground." She looked at me for a few seconds. Didn't say a word. Just gave a small, defeated nod, like she knew I wasn't going to change my mind. Then she got up, quietly thanked me for listening, and walked out the door. Looking back, I think the hardest part wasn't what Miranda said at that party. It was everything that came before it. And if you're stuck in a relationship that feels off, even if you can't explain why. If your partner only shows affection when no one else is around, if they're warm in private but cold in public, if you find yourself defending their disrespect because you've grown used to it, please pause. Step back. Take a real look. Affection behind closed doors is not the same as respect. I used to think that just because she cuddled up to me when we were alone or told me I was her safe place, it meant something lasting. But that same person would make me the punchline in front of her friends. She'd call me loyal like a golden retriever with a laugh, and somehow I'd laugh along too, until I didn't. Until I realized love should never make you feel small, just to lift someone else up. Also, financial support. It's not a currency for love. You can pay the bills. You can buy the gifts. You can plan the parties and show up with your whole heart and still end up empty. I thought generosity would deepen her feelings for me, but all it did was train her to expect more and respect less. And I let it happen because I was afraid that setting boundaries would drive her away. But here's the truth. If someone only stays because you're easy to take from, you've already lost them. I stayed quiet for too long. I made excuses for her. But my silence became permission. It taught her that no matter what she said or did, I would always stay. And the day she finally crossed the line, she didn't think she had. That's how far gone we were. So here's my advice. Check in with yourself. Ask the real questions. Are you being cherished, or are you just being used? When you speak, are you heard, or are you guilt-tripped into silence? Are you loved, or are you convenient? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if this story made sense to you, if it hit a little too close to home, or reminded you of someone who might need to hear it, don't forget to like and share it. Someone out there is living this story in silence. Maybe this is the push they need to open their eyes. Thanks for watching.